created Intrinsic to do two things. One is to provide life-changing opportunities and post-secondary success for our students, and then two, to create the roadmap for all the other educators about how you do this in a sustainable and replicable way.
One of the curious things for me was how much the technology is blended and how important that is in terms of the mission for you guys versus a small change or a small maneuver from the traditional classroom.
I think of technology as a tool. So our students are probably on a computer about 50% of the day, but the really important part is that we're changing the way teachers do their job and how teachers interact with students, and we're using the technology as a way to individualize for kids and also play with groupings. So if a bunch of students are working independently, then you can have teachers working with much smaller groups of students on things that they need directly from the teacher.
So as far as you know, are you the first one in, say, the Chicago metro area doing this?
I think we are the first school in Chicago that's taking this on wholeheartedly. I think many people are playing around the edges with technology, but we're designing the school to figure out what we can do to use technology to differentiate.
A lot of these blending learning environments were just classrooms where they just knock down walls. And even though we have this large open space, the idea is that the spaces within are very purposefully designed.
I think it's really important to name the areas for the students, so students know different things happen at different places in the pod.
Yeah, the nomenclature was important because we wanted to give each place an identity within the pod. Each grade level is separated into two pods, the STEM pod and the humanities pod. Each pod is supplemented by two auxiliary, acoustically isolated spaces. STEM pod being supplemented by a lab, humanities pod being supplemented by a Socratic seminar room. The organization of the pod is determined by 5 different learning environments. Each environment is defined by the furniture, the architecture or space, and the finishes. The first space is the coastline. This is the most introspective space, which focuses on personalized learning. Audio and video content is digitally delivered via Chromebooks. Inside the coastline is the exchange table. This is a space that promotes collaborative learning with peer-delivered content. The pop-up class is the direct instruction space. This is a space of 10 to 12 students focused around a whiteboard and projector. The content here is delivered directly by the instructor. The center of the room is anchored by the Genius Bar. This is the place where students can come if help is needed and provides a space for the teachers within the pod. The final space is the study lounge, which is a soft seating, informal environment where independent learning or small group activities can take place. All those elements, I think, came directly from our understanding from your experiences in the first year.
Yeah, I think to understand how kids will use things, you really have to do it with kids.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it was so important to the design process to have that feedback.
I think one of the nice things about being a student here that I could see is how your experience changes, that you're never in a pod that looked just like your old pod, right? As you move through the years, you have quite a different space to occupy.
In a lot of ways, the pods particularly are really designed in a way that the principles that the pods are founded on can be implemented in other scenarios.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that every school will have a pod structure. Probably every pod will have a coastline and exchange, the big board, that type of thing. People are pretty excited when they come here.
So if you want to say that most schools are designed from the outside in, so to speak, this one was completely the opposite. It was very much designed from the inside out. And I think that reflects in actually what we ended up with too.